As if they don't have too much on their plates. The Kings of Combat Sports Podcast, John and Wade. They talk about the things they did that day. They'll analyze the work of Triple H. Rewind to SmackDown. 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 Rewind to SmackDown.
And hello, everybody. Welcome to Rewind to SmackDown. We say hello at this point to all of our YouTube and podcast, public feed audience. Neal Flanagan is here with me for another edition of Rewind to SmackDown. John Pollock will be returning on Sunday, but Neal just did a great job leading us through a news pack, talking about several top stories of the day, including Lex Luger entering the WWE Hall of Fame, New Japan Pro Wrestling having a bit of an issue canceling their New Japan Cup opening night event due to a broken ring post. John Cena has been confirmed for a Saturday night's main event in May. Hammerstone finishes up with TNA, some notes from Tony Khan's AEW Revolution media call, and some very interesting, very colorful comments from Will Ospreay speaking out about some of his critics. Thank you very much, Neal, for that. Are you ready to talk about SmackDown, Neal?
I sure am. Well, I just want to say hello again to the free audience, and to say, because at this point we'll have the larger audience, Wai, you've done an absolutely stand-up, tremendous, fantastic job in the absence of John. I think I speak for all the audience when I say that. Well done. And you'll be glad to see Big Johnny P on Sunday on Face to Face as you review AEW Revolution.
Thank you very much, Neal. Yeah, I actually should have done my thanks in the free portion rather than in the Café version, but thank you to everybody who's been able to contribute to the site. In John's absence, honestly, it's given me a whole lot more appreciation of what John does on a daily basis, just even doing a fraction of what he does. So the man wears several hats, and I only have room for one, of course. And I guess as
I know for a fact that he feels the same way when you're not around, Wai. You know, so it's very much co-equal branches of government at the top of post wrestling.
Well, thank you, Neal. Let's talk about tonight's edition of WWE SmackDown. This one comes to us from Philadelphia, of course, the site of WrestleMania 40, a place in a location that Neal Flanagan was supposed to attend. But for one of his many infamous passport issues, was unable to last year. Yeah,
my Airbnb attended though because it was too late to cancel it. So.
I watched the event at your Airbnb. That's right.
Yeah, that's actually one of the things that I missed the most about that trip was obviously the big meetups and seeing everyone, but kind of just the hangout on night 2 of WrestleMania with you and Jordan and Jesse from the Six, sort of chilling out and watching the show. That was one of my more FOMO moments. I got some pictures of that.
I am not a fun hang at all when it comes to watching wrestling, Neal, because I'm just sitting there focused and I'm taking my notes. I don't really talk. You didn't miss much, trust me.
Okay.
So yeah. We are from the Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia, PA, of course, and WWE actually announced the attendance on this particular show. Their number was 16,728, which is actually a bit lower than the WrestleTix estimate, but very close. And I'd announced sellout by the WWE 16 to 17,000 people attending this one. Pretty crazy. Mm-hmm. During our opening walkouts to start the show, Drew McIntyre comes in and sees Damian Priest and attacks him from behind, saying, "What did you think was going to happen?" Of course, referring to Priest costing Drew the chamber match and Drew retaliating by costing Priest his chamber match. So more on that a little bit later. We start things off here with Randy Orton, who speaks following his surprise return on Saturday. Randy Orton makes a comment about Cena falling from being at the top of this business to being a bottom for The Rock. He says it kind of puts a new meaning to the term rock bottom.
A mild pop for this, for those who got the reference, I think. Yeah. And I think this is a sort of safe joke that you can make with kids there that, you know, you're going to get it or you're not going to get it.
I guess so. I wonder if Cody had to explain this joke to his 4-year-old daughter. This was like one of the top posts from SmackDown on Reddit. Like Reddit seemed to really enjoy this particular line. Anyway, Orton talks about Kevin Owens and says he respects the wrestler Kevin Owens, but Owens the man. He says Owens is a jealous man. He was jealous of Cody's gold. That's why he attacked him. He was jealous of Sammy being the bigger star than him. That's why he attacked him. And he attacked me even. He doesn't know what Owens could be jealous about. He has main evented WrestleMania twice, including once with Steve Austin. Orton says Owens is never satisfied. And when Orton came back from a near career-ending injury, he said this time he wouldn't take things for granted and just get angry about things, but Owens made him lose his temper. He says RKOing Owens at the Chamber should have brought him satisfaction, but for some reason it did not. And for the first time in a decade and a half, the voices started speaking to him, and they told him to kick Kevin Owens in the head. And he says that he is going to prove that Pat McAfee is only the second greatest punter in the WWE. So pretty much all but spelling out for you what this feud is based on and what the closing image of this particular feud is expected to be. And that is, of course, a WrestleMania-sized punt to Kevin Owens.
Yeah. And time to bring back the punt. I think they teased it backstage once, or I think they might have, during the Thunderdome era, done it, but shot it from an angle where it was very safe or something like that. So maybe the pile driver isn't the only band move we're going to see.
Yeah.
I thought this was great. Randy got a giant pop from the audience. He really milked it. You know, he walked around the ring pointing at everybody. Did his signature pose, and I did think we're in for another 3-hour SmackDown though at this. You know, because he deserves the full. You know, a returning Randy Orton. Of course, he's going to get the full entrance, and you know I think it was 10 minutes though before a word was spoken from the ring at least.
Yes, there's certainly you can certainly tell the pace difference of a 3-hour SmackDown from a 2-hour SmackDown. And that means a lot of room for entrances for people who really want to see entrances, I guess. We go to the back and we see Tiffany Stratton as talking to Nick Aldis as Chelsea Green walks in. She's not happy about having a street fight with Michin tonight, and Stratton basically tells her to shut up, stop interrupting, and then challenges Piper Niven to a match as Nick Aldis makes it for up next. As we have Piper Niven versus Tiffany Stratton in a non-title match. Niven delivers a cannonball off the apron to take us to commercial. We come back with Stratton on the attack. A swanton gets a 2 count. Niven then misses the Vader splash. Prettiest moonsault ever as Tiffany Stratton gets the victory here. Before I go to you, Neil, afterwards, Charlotte enters, chop blocks the knee, figure 8 before pull apart. And what did you think about all this, Neil?
I think it was really an angle more than a match, or at least the setup to the angle. And I don't want to, build up my part, but what happened was what I expected to happen, because this match seemed incredibly random. It put Tiffany in the ring, and I thought, yeah, Charlotte's going to come out, isn't she? And of course she did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a bit of a showcase match for Stratton here to lead to the beatdown. I would say the match itself was very straightforward, and the post-match attack was maybe even more straightforward. Mm-hmm. I think the crowd gave like a decent reaction to Tiffany Stratton by the end. She is somebody who I consider still, to be struggling with like achieving a babyface reaction worthy of a champion. But in ring is where I think Tiffany shines the most. So I feel confident in saying that even if the feud is not the hottest heading into WrestleMania, I think in ring, Charlotte and Tiffany will have a great match planned and maybe even slightly, if not maybe mainly rehearsed, so that I don't think it will fail. I think on the night of, barring maybe an exhausted crowd perhaps for WrestleMania, I think the in-ring action should be very satisfying.
I think so too. They're both great athletes. I think the gymnasticism, if that's a word, of Tiffany is tremendous, and she's getting better all the time. And even for a couple of minute match, Niven is no slouch, and this was good. I mean, there wasn't really anything that went badly wrong here or anything like that. I do enjoy her back flip into the kind of hip attack type move. It is good. She's a great athlete.
I think keeping the build relatively simple here would be good. With it's a Flair attacking the knee of their opponent, to set up for their figure 4, figure 8 finisher, right? So I'm wondering if they keep up that knee injury or even like maybe intensify it, en route to WrestleMania. Aldous is in the back. He's got a whiteboard here as he gives us a mini lesson ahead of March Madness, of course, of the madness of the state of the tag team division. So just to kind of recap this entire web, he did the whole what is it? It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah, Charlie.
Day. It's the Motor City Machine Guns. They debuted 4 months ago and they beat DIY for the tag titles. The Street Profits were supposed to get a title shot, but they were attacked in the back. So DIY took their place and they won the titles back after Johnny Gargano, of course, turned on the Machine Guns. Pretty Deadly at some point falsely accused Los Garza of being the ones to attack the Profits, dragging them into all of this. So thus we have our 5-team feud, which somehow has taken us 4 months to produce here. Aldous says that next week to solve all of this, the Profits will get their title shot against DIY, and the other 3 teams will be in a triple threat match to determine the next challengers on this particular show. Overall, despite maybe some thoughts I might have about this tag division, I thought this segment was actually a very good little catch up here to remind us, or at least refresh us about what has been a pretty complex program that's kind of quietly spanned 4 months now of TV.
It has, and it doesn't get the tag division doesn't get much love in the build up to SmackDown. It's not something that they really lean on in their socials or that they promote in their little videos and whatnot. It certainly sort of appears sort of a third of the way through the show, and they're all there.
It feels like their time fill segment. Like they attract people with the Codys and with like even a Jacob Fatu's occasionally, but like they'll fill the show with the tag team stuff.
Yeah. I mean, and they've put on some good matches. I think it's 3 or 4 weeks ago I've come back to this one because in ring isn't perhaps what we really look for on Friday nights, but the match between the Machine Guns and Los Garza a few weeks ago I thought was a really solid one that I was actually quite glad I watched through the commercial break as an international viewer. So there's been some good in-ring stuff here as well. There's some very good workers involved. But yeah, I think this whiteboard segment was good. It was a good reminder of, oh yes, well, this person turned on that person, this team lied about who was responsible for what. And so here we are, and finally we're going to get some resolution with a title match and a number 1 contenders match.
A lot of feuds could use a whiteboard segment from time to time, I'd say. So we get to that triple threat tag match for a number 1 contenders shot next week. Los Garza versus Pretty Deadly versus, sorry, not next week, sometime in the future. Los Garza versus Pretty Deadly versus the Machine Guns. They work some triple team sequences ending with Los Garza delivering a stereo Orihara moonsaults to the floor to take us to commercial break. We come back with everybody hitting a big move, Sabin diving through Shelly's legs to the floor. Kit Wilson shoved Shelly off the corner, allowing Elton Prince to backslide Sabin for the win. So we've got Pretty Deadly up next to challenge for the tag titles. Match, I thought, as usual, with the tag division, had some pretty decent action, but as usual, I think, well, not always, but in this particular instance, I felt it kind of lacked the heat that you might expect from the crowd.
Completely agree. Very notable. I mean, I put that in my notes. The crowd are not very into this, and they weren't. It was almost as quiet as they got all night. I mean, also toward the end, post Cody, things began to sort of slip away steam wise as well. But there was not much heat here, unfortunately.
I think there's been so much parity booking between all 5 of these teams that no one is seeming to really stand out. The Profits maybe being a slight exception, but yeah. Like it's not exactly like they're hot. I wouldn't say any of these teams are hot. Instead, it just kind of feels like a bit of a swamp of mid-carders that is kind of tough to like claw out of.
Yeah. And what do you think of Pretty Deadly getting the win here?
I mean, it tells me DIY are likely to retain because they have a threatened feud with DIY, and they will at least challenge, but unsuccessfully challenge for the championship. So it's just maybe another win on DIY's notch, because I don't think they're serious, or at least like DIY certainly aren't hot enough yet to maybe warrant a run. They've gotten a little bit more serious in ring as performers as part of this babyface turn, but it in effect, unfortunately, it's also kind of made them a lot more uninteresting and generic. Like what got them over, and what should get them even more over, is being entertaining and somewhat slightly obnoxious.
Yeah.
And it seems like they've almost completely abandoned that in favor of just like, I don't know, being like average wrestlers, you know?
Yeah, agreed.
So that's that. Well, we wait to see when they'll get their shots. It could be this European tour. So we go to Bianca Belair, who arrives. This is probably one of the big segments on the show, other than Cody, of course. Bianca Belair shows up. She's dressed in black and wearing sunglasses, looking like she's going to both a party and a funeral at the same time.
Yeah.
Which I think it reflects her mental state coming off of the emotions of the chamber. She says she should be celebrating her chamber win, but it's hard to do that when your friends are fighting. She and Jade built something, but Naomi stepped in to make sure that work didn't go to waste. Belair says she and Naomi were close before, but after teaming with her, she became her best friend. So she does not believe Naomi attacked Jade. She says now she's being accused, that being Bianca, so she needs answers now. She mentions that they're not texting her back, so she tells Naomi to come out right now from the back. So Naomi shows up in a glittery neck brace, I believe the same one that she had on the red carpet for the Queen of the Ring, which she has a small part in, and which you can listen to a review of with Karen and Kate on the Post Wrestling Cafe. So Naomi says, Bianca, she says BB?
BB, yeah. She either calls her B or BB, I think.
BB.
Quite a lot.
This isn't what it looks like. And Belair simply wants to get to the point. Did you attack Jade? Naomi says all of this is nothing but a distraction, stopping us from getting our tag titles back. Belair continues to tell Naomi to focus on answering the question about Jade. And Naomi says, you want to know how I feel about Jade? I didn't say this before, but I think Jade has been piggybacking off of you the whole time. She says she's been forced to watch Jade succeed off of Belair's excellence and hard work, while Naomi was pushed to the side to fight for herself. At this point, Naomi gets very emotional. She says that's how she feels. She doesn't give a damn about Jade because Jade doesn't give a damn about Bianca. So at this point, they're both arguing and talking over each other, and Bianca now is starting to cry. Bianca says it's very simple. Give me a yes or no. Did you attack Jade? And Naomi takes a big pause. Tears are actually flowing down her face at this point. And she says, I did it. I did it for you. I did it for us, just like a father-in-law. Belair is crying. She says, don't touch me. You know why this hurts so bad? Because I love you. So this, me and you, we're done. Can I just say, I thought this was a great ad for Queen of the Ring, and however smart Naomi's role must have been, if it's even a tenth of the performance of this, I kind of need to see it.
I was blown away by this because they grabbed the crowd for one thing, who at the beginning of Naomi's speech pattern was wanting her. But I think they probably then got the close up on the Tron because like she was genuinely crying. I think her acting here was absolutely brilliant, and she's very true to her own identity as well, using her real speech patterns. Nothing didn't sound scripted or overly kind of delivered. It was kind of this is my truth, and all this kind of thing. And the next part, where she said, as you're going to recap this, I guess.
Yeah. So, at this point, there's still some ambiguity about like where Naomi stands, and she goes to admit it. So now we know, okay, she actually did it. And this was the point of the turn. As Belair walks away, Naomi says, I should have pushed her harder. I should have pushed her sooner. Every time I stand up for myself, she says, you people turn on me. That's what you're doing, Bianca. You ungrateful bitch. Cut to a shot of Jade Cargill suddenly on the Titantron. She's pulling up in her car, and she walks into the arena in like a blood-patterned, skin-tight suit.
Incredible. It's white bodysuit with
Yeah.
like blood spatter all over it.
Looked awesome, and I guess like choosing her wardrobe that day, she wanted you to to know what
She chose violence.
Yeah, I guess so. She gives Bianca a look as she walks past her. I mean, I interpreted it as if like her maybe still being somewhat suspicious of Bianca's role in all of this, but I mean, maybe that's up for interpretation. She heads to the ring, catches up with Naomi, and attacks her again, delivers Jaded to her in the ring, and lays Naomi out again. So this was a big angle. And at least on the surface, if we're just to kind of look at this angle for what it was, we got our confirmation that, well, it was certainly Naomi that was involved, and presumably Naomi acting alone. Although, you know, of course, we can't say for sure that Bianca wasn't involved. But I mean, if we're to just believe this on the surface and believe Bianca's acting, then yes, it was Naomi doing this alone. This gave us our first big heel promo from Naomi. And I thought it was awesome, Neil. You know, ultimately, this entire program, obviously, it heated up whatever match that they're going to get to, but predominantly, I think the person who is benefiting the most is Naomi. It's giving her a central role. It's giving her the spotlight, and it's giving her this sort of like depth of character to allow her to give us a performance like this. Something happened to her, you know, like in this excursion outside of the WWE, where she was really able to find her own level of comfort being herself and being able to express who that person is in ring on TV. I think you never really got to see it because she received like title matches, but she was never really involved in like A programs, A storylines. You got to see glimpses of her like in backstage interactions where I think like she was just feeling a lot more charismatic than usual. Little did we know, it wasn't just charisma that was about to burst out, but like this level of range and acting and this level of like I don't know, believability and performance.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I just thought it was awesome. She really leaned into the character. She was completely believable. The tears were streaming down her face. The brief moment where she addressed the crowd, you know, she said something like, "You all turn on me when I stand up for myself," you know, and that I thought got a good reaction and bodes well for this heel character going forward. And when she called Bianca an ungrateful bitch, you really felt that she meant it. And I always like it when the heels seem to have a motivation that is somewhat credible. And of course, it's misguided, but you can buy into her story here, you know, that this is her truth. This is what she thinks. And she's the one who stepped up and, you know, all of that. So her performance took me by surprise. It was so good. I thought it was going to be pretty good. I didn't think it would be as good as it was.
Yeah, I like this is the type of role that I could see ending with Naomi becoming a champion, and not just somebody who's carrying the title like I would suggest maybe her first run was, but somebody who's actually a focal point of a division. So I hope they run with this. Now, what gives me pause is the fact that you had Jade Cargill come out here and basically lay her out again, you know, and to me kind of extinguishing a lot of that heat that was so well built up, you know, through this entire program. Now, I also don't think they're stupid in that they would just maybe do this without some purpose and some reason. So I'm expecting another layer to come on top of all of this, another surprise perhaps. Now, again, can we definitively say that Bianca was not involved? Well, she put on a pretty convincing performance, I suppose, tonight to maybe steer you off that course. But I mean, in wrestling, I guess you could never say never. Could Naomi have done it with somebody else? I don't know. Could we just? What do you think, Neil? Do you think there's more to this, or do we just go to our match right away?
My instinct watching it tonight was I was taking it at face value, but I agree with you that they could absolutely make a few more swerves and twists on this as they go. I prefer it not to be Bianca being involved, because then the reaction in the chamber and everything that we saw tonight was
Acting,
kayfabe acting, if you know what I mean. It was kind of acting within the play.
well, what's wrong with that?
That's okay. And it was okay when DIY did it, of course, but I don't know. I don't love that as an idea.
Feels kind of professional wrestling swervy for the sake of swerve, right?
That's my take on it. Yeah, I think it would be a bit more kind of, okay, we've got another twist up our sleeve, on this one. But it doesn't rule out some help for Naomi. I don't know who that would be, though. Perhaps he just, is able to get one over on Jade through nefarious means, But I do agree that the having to take Jaded in the middle of the ring did kind of take some of the sting out of the danger of this character. I would have had her just escape, get over the barrier and run away.
So, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. We will see maybe how they might heat Naomi back up. I mean, assuming that Bianca is innocent, I expect us to get the story of how perhaps Jade and Bianca will have to smooth things over, because surely there's a lot of maybe tension there that might be unresolved. How this will play into Bianca Belair's WrestleMania title challenge, I also find very interesting, because I don't expect her to just exit this storyline, right? There has to be some fallout that might tie into that.
Sure.
So,
yeah,
we'll see.
As we were reminded by Joe Tessitore, 43 or something days till WrestleMania, so they've still got plenty of TV to fill.
So Drew McIntyre is in the back with Byron Saxton, says he could have stopped Cena and prevented heartbreak for a lot of people if he beat him in the chamber, if not for Damian Priest ruining his Mania chances. Drew, at this point, has nothing for Mania, so he has nothing to give but violence. And he says it starts with the black sheep of the family tonight, referring to his match with Jimmy Uso later tonight. This is where they play the Lex Luger Surprise Hall of Fame video. And Charlotte is backstage, says the division has gone soft since she's been gone, as B-Fab walks in and they engage in some trash talk, and a match is made for next week's SmackDown in Barcelona, Spain.
Yeah. Where at the close of this segment, Charlotte, talks about making the match in Barcelona and then says ciao. No, maybe just saying ciao, but that's Italian. I thought adios would have been a bit more... a bit more appropriate for Barcelona. But anyway, yes, but the Spanish are getting B-Fab versus Charlotte. That's quite something.
I mean, they're getting a Charlotte singles match, which it doesn't happen on every edition of SmackDown. In fact, I don't think Charlotte has wrestled since Rumble, has she?
No, I don't think so.
So, that feels somewhat... I mean, it'll be an interesting... If they get time, if they give B-Fab enough, I think it'll be an interesting continued assessment of where B-Fab might be and how Charlotte might work with somebody who is of a similar stature. So I have a bit of interest in that.
Yeah.
Braun Strowman is about to take on Solo Sikoa. After a commercial break with Solo in control attacking Braun's left shoulder, Solo manages a Samoan drop on Braun. Strowman then comes back with the Strowman Express. He delivers a power slam, but Tama Tonga comes in to cause the DQ in what I thought was a pretty weak ending to a pretty unsatisfying match that I didn't think was all that exciting to begin with.
No, I mean, they pretty much went into break immediately, and when they came back, it was just another minute or two, and then the DQ,
It was all in service of the post-match face-off here as Jacob Fatu comes out to stare Strowman down, and the crowd is immediately chanting for Fatu, of course. They start brawling as Fatu delivers a dive, but is caught by Strowman on the outside. Strowman then sends him onto the announce table with a chokeslam, but Fatu no-sells it. He dives off of it onto Strowman with a back elbow. They continue brawling through the crowd and on top of some equipment cases, and this ends with Strowman choke-slamming Fatu onto a bunch of tables below. As Strowman stands tall, the announcers make note of Fatu managing to get to his feet to close the segment. So I would say I would classify this as maybe one of the rare instances of Fatu at least being on the losing end of a segment, but they do, I guess, put over his toughness of how he was able to stand up afterwards. So Strowman versus Fatu seems to be what we're going back to, and I'm guessing falls count anywhere stipulation coming off of this particular angle.
Yeah, seems like it. And The desk did a good job of putting, Jacob. How does he do this? He was selling the.
Oh, I thought you literally meant the desk. Like,
no, sorry.
This what truly is reinforced and indestructible.
Yeah. The announcer, well, both. Let's say then I did mean that, but the announcers at the desk did a good job too of selling Jacob's kind of resilience in being able to not pop up. He was selling rather well, but to be able to stand up after taking this.
Yeah. So we await to see where that ends up. I imagine just another edition of SmackDown could be coming up relatively soon. And then what do we have coming up after this? We've got LA Knight with Byron Saxton in the back. LA Knight makes mention of Fatu not being around tonight to interrupt his match with Shinsuke Nakamura. He says he only needs one moment to hit the BFT and says that they're in the birthplace of the U.S. and it'll also be the rebirth place of his U.S. title run. So that match is happening later tonight. Chelsea is in the back with Piper, and ahead of Chelsea Green's street fight, she is dressed as Cactus Jack, complete with red flannel and complete with a Cactus Jack parody shirt on which she appears. Great getup for this. Piper is recovering from her match as Chelsea tells her to shake it off ahead of the title match, and this is where Zelina walks in and simply says she's got the winner. So. Did she have to talk to Nick Aldis for this or what?
I don't know. We can only assume. But make the most of your minutes. They say Zelina got about 10 seconds of airtime here.
Has Zelina wrestled yet on SmackDown since she's come back?
Possibly, but if so, I can't recall.
It feels like I've only seen her like walk up to people backstage, like probably Chelsea repeatedly. She has not. She was in the Rumble. She her last match was on December 30th against Shayna Baszler on Main Event. So how does she think that she's deserving of a title match? I guess whatever.
No idea.
Who isn't deserving? Chelsea Green versus Mia Yim. This is a street fight for the U.S. title, and I remind everybody. Okay, I'm here to do our Charlie Day impression here, reminding everybody of the storied history of Mia Yim and Chelsea Green. This is the 5th match these two have had with each other since October. The first one, of course, was their infamous dumpster match which Michin won. Second one was in the U.S. title tournament for the vacant title. This was the final on Saturday night's main event, which, of course, Chelsea Green won. And the third one, Chelsea actually beat her. And in the fourth one, Michin won via DQ, so they are technically 2-2 in a series that I didn't think would be going 5 matches long. But here we are. Street fight. Michin is in an Eagles jersey, in case you wanted to know who to cheer for. Now, commentary for this street fight, they kept putting over like Michin's deathmatch pedigree.
Yeah.
Okay. Now it is true. They kept like mentioning the fact that she trained in Philadelphia in the 2300 arena. I'm guessing this is in reference to her time training under DJ Hyde in the CZW school. But man, Barrett calls her the queen of death matches at one point, and I'm just like, come on, really? You're just like making it way tougher for these two to like impress the audience when you're
to bring Tommy Dreamer
things.
into it as well as one of her trainers. As you know, they really lent a bit too heavily into Michin being this incredible deathmatch legend.
Yeah. We got Chelsea Green versus Megumi Kudo here. Mia Yim. She starts biting Chelsea's fingers and she brings out the table before Chelsea attacks and puts it away. After the break, we get a fire extinguisher to Chelsea. Michin finally brings out the table. Chelsea goes up top and delivers a really nice coast-to-coast drop kick to a trash can onto Michin here. B-Fab removes Piper on the outside with a kendo stick. Michin then delivers the long back attack, the deathmatch devastating move. I've seen Jun Kasai do this exact same move. The long back attack to Chelsea Green into a trash can. The table is finally in the ring. Mia hits Eat Defeat as Chelsea gets on top of it. One of the tables, however, nearly gives out one of its legs, but not fully. And it's enough for Michin to deliver a senton through the table before a hooded individual comes into the ring to make the save for Chelsea, and she reveals that it is Alba Fire, who hits a Scottish destroyer to Michin onto a pile of tables as Fire salutes Chelsea, and it looks like she has joined the U.S. Champions cabinet.
Yeah, and what I wrote was the crowd do not care, and I don't think I did very much as well. This was a kind of a throwback to the worst of the sort of Extreme Rules matches, where they're going on and on about it being, the carnage of all of this, and of course,
I can't believe it's a table.
I know, a table.
In Philadelphia, this is table harkening back to memories of ECW.
All of that.
Joe Tessitore was going crazy for this regular table.
It was well over the top, and some chains which didn't really come into it. The pathetic looking baking tray, which is clearly made of foil, because it just bends immediately. All of that, and then to be capped off by the hooded figure. Who can it be? Alba Fire. And I mean, I don't mean any disrespect to her as a performer, but no, I think half the crowd probably didn't know who it was even when the hood came down.
She didn't need the hood. She should have just attacked, yes. And it would have still been a mystery. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. But I mean, sure, let's have another person in this stable to bolster Chelsea
the
Green.
Secret Service, the Secret Service. I'm sorry. I'm at least happy that they're finding a new role and giving Alba Fire a chance rather than who knows? She could have just maybe stayed in NXT and then just eventually have been released. They're giving her a chance to get over under a new story, and I hope she's sort of being presented as the more legitimate Secret Service agent in comparison to Piper Niven, who should be maybe more maybe legitimate, but unfortunately is more so a joke because she's just kind of there for the funny comedy stuff. Let's see what she can do. Let's
she is
see.
Pretty funny. I enjoyed her in the Mountie outfit the other day, but the weekend of all the recent releases, I was kind of waiting, after Isla Dawn was announced. I had my eyes open for Alba Fire to be released as well, to be quite honest, because they were so closely linked, So I too am glad that she's at least being given a chance to do something here. But going by the crowd temperature, it's not off to a flying start.
Yeah, you hate to say it, but I mean, this is sort of a critical point for Alba Fire, right? If this doesn't necessarily work for her, will she receive many more chances? So we'll see what they can do. Santos is in the back. He's yelling at Los Garza for losing the match tonight, and he demands that things need to change and soon. At this point, the two of them walk out as Humberto is left with Andrade, who walks in, and he asks Humberto why he takes all of this from Santos. He says he deserves better. So Andrade is now firmly in the Legado vortex and trying to at least lure Humberto away from Legado. So
I have a slight bit of interest in this just because I think that Humberto Carrillo is a really good worker and kind of underrated. So if it gets him away from the tag team, and a chance to do something else, that might be a good thing.
Yeah. All right, let's go to a video package now, announcing the TKO and Saudi Arabia Boxing League deal, of course. Just a very normal, continued promotion of a Saudi Arabian sponsored owned event, actually. All through the night, they play, and get used to it. I'm sure we'll get way more of that. Yeah. So all through the night, they played the same teases and recaps of the Cena turn that we got on Monday, with the announcers at one point actually making specific mention of the Travis Scott sucker punch. So
yeah. I will say, Wai, just to interrupt slightly, I did find that kind of irritating as somebody who watched Raw on Monday, that they used the same, starting off with the reaction shots and then the sort of kids reaction shots and the international commentary reactions. They more or less did exactly the same packages as they used on Raw, in the same order at the same points in the show. And if you're following the product, that can be a bit tiresome.
I don't disagree, especially like when you're getting like what, 5 of the same like video packages all throughout the night. Like in this instance, I feel like I would give them a pass just because of the importance of this particular segment. I thought they were relatively well done on Monday, and
Yeah.
as many people that watch these shows, we can't expect everybody to watch everything, and one being on Netflix, the other being on TV. I mean,
That's a fair point.
maybe it's okay. Okay, so we also then this takes us, of course, to our 10 p.m. segment, which is the arrival of Cody Rhodes here, who sports quite the black eye. I would say more red than a black eye still at this point. He says Saturday was the most watched moment in WWE and wrestling history, and he's laying there in his own blood. He talks about his 4-year-old asking him what happened to his face, and he told her a Cody lie, that he ran into a wall. And he says that's not totally untrue. He did run into a wall designed by the final boss, Travis Scott, who receives a lot of boos in Philadelphia, and John Cena. He says he drove John for 2 years when he was younger in this business, and he looked at John like a hero, like many people do. One day he will tell his daughter what actually happened to his face, that a man who used to say never give up, gave up. He says he and the people want to know why. He says if he knows Cena, he expects Cena to give a well-formed retort with signature phrases, wherein he'll say at some point, fine speech. I didn't realize like fine speech was sort of like a thing that Cena did often. Did you?
I've noticed it in the past, but not to this extent that it would be a kind of memeable thing.
Obviously, Cody knows him far better than we all do. So fine speech. And afterwards, Cena will feel justified at his own actions. But he says there is no justification for what you did, John. Then Cody starts talking about Philadelphia and says that Philadelphia was the one place that his dad was afraid to wrestle in because he was afraid that he wouldn't get cheered. Cody doesn't share that same fear as his father because he brings up all the way back when he was dashing Cody Rhodes and he won the Money in the Bank, and Philadelphia cheered him. Then, of course, he brings up last year at WrestleMania when he finished his story and they cheered him. He brings up Mania and says that was also where Cena was in the ring with him celebrating that victory, and says Cena told him, pointing at his title, it gets heavier every day. Cody says he's holding it and it's not heavy enough. And then just kind of really ramps up in intensity as he just like talks about just how okay, he said something to the effect of, John, you think your successor is somebody who is supposed to look like you and talk like you. Well, I basically saying that I'm not that person, and that he's holding the championship right now, and it's not heavy at all. John Cena, you want some? Come get some.
Yeah,
very important promo from Cody. What did you think, Neil?
Really good. A classic Cody promo, really well delivered. And the sort of ramp up in intensity to the end, where clearly you want some, come get some. And at that point he's at fever pitch. He throws the mic away. I really enjoyed that. I like the, it's a side note, but I love the notion of that a white lie is a Cody lie. This guy is so upright and moral, that a Cody lie is something that you tell to make someone feel better, and it's okay. This sort of thing. And it's the Cody that we wanted to see for a couple of weeks while he was wandering around in a daydream, with the, we did this show last week, and that was the one where he was in the ridiculous dressing room that had been laid on by the final boss, and he's just kind of wandering around as though he's in a daydream. Of course the payoff was worth all, and I remember complaining about that last week. Of course the payoff was completely worth it, because the Cena heel turn really was something that not very many people saw coming. Chris Healy aside, shout out to the professor. But so very well earned, and it's good to have that Cody back, after 2 weeks of him sort of like pondering the question, So yes, an excellent promo.
Yeah, I thought Cody gave a great signature, just outstanding babyface promo here. And I whether or not it was something that was met with praise or criticism after the fact, that black eye that Travis Scott may or may not have given him, I think was probably the best thing for this promo coming off of that angle that he could have had, because I thought visually it allowed Cody to maybe start off the speech from from sort of the position of suffering, where he kind of like took us on his journey from like feeling the disappointment of the betrayal of John Cena, and just kind of through a great motivational speech was able to ramp up himself to feeling angry instead of like disappointed. Did that really well. But also
intensity was quite something.
But conveyed the hurt of the situation very well through the use of his daughter's reaction, which if you're going to have kids, I guess they're very effective tools for promo.
Yeah. Papa, why?
He kind of mocked Cena for his ability to give pattern speeches with catchphrases, almost like as if this was sort of a criticism of Cena being a corporate character rather than being a real person who speaks from the heart, for instance, so that's interesting. We'll see if Cena leans into it. He also seems to suggest slightly his own theory about why Cena might have turned on him, where he says that Cena wants his successor to be like him, and Cody says he sort of bucks that trend. Now, do you agree with that? Do you agree that Cody is more different from Cena than he is alike, or do you not? How do you feel?
They are different characters, and they do their shtick in different ways. I think Cena's from an era where the babyface was people. The people were very tired of that kind of kid-friendly character. Cody is that, but he's also operating in a regime where he can be, where baby faces can get over, and traditional ones like Cody is. But I do think they are quite similar in the sense of they're both kind of company guys. They are, to use the old phrase, kind of white meat baby faces. Cody's not a tweener in any way, shape, or form. He's kind of this moral backbone, and kind of Cena filled that role, but in a different way as well. So I don't agree that they're that different. But if Cody is saying Cena wanted a clone of himself, and I'm not it, then I think that's a reasonable storyline to pursue.
Yeah. It seems to be a new plot point, because I don't think I've ever heard Cena mention anything of the sort. Of course, he's a babyface, so he wouldn't necessarily mention something like that. But is it a new plot point that they will expand upon? Will Cena come out and say, "You're not the right person for the job. The right person for the job is somebody like me"? Again, this is relatively new. That hasn't really been introduced before. I'm kind of curious if they go deeper into it. So we still await a John Cena explanation. No idea when he's about to appear, but he is on this European tour, right?
Yeah.
So I guess could be soon. All right. And a great reaction from Philadelphia, of course, here. So we are cut to the back with Miz and Nick Aldis. Miz kind of does a big "I told you so" about John Cena. Says he's been right about him this entire time. And he wants to suggest the premiere episode of Mello Don't Miz TV with Cody Rhodes, and that'll happen next week. Mello says he would have taken the Final Boss's offer, and then kind of makes fun of old timers like Randy Orton coming in off their couches after playing Fortnite. And to this, Randy Orton walks in, gets off the couch, and he walks in here. He does say, "Fortnite is for kids. I was playing Elden Ring."
Shout out to Eric Marcotte, who is an Elden Ring aficionado. Is not the word. This man up in Sudbury has devoted days and days of his life to Elden Ring.
Oh goodness! Wow. Well, he must love Randy Orton then.
He does. Yeah.
Yeah. All this makes Orton versus Mello for Barcelona next week on Friday. Drew McIntyre takes on Jimmy Uso up next, and I would suggest the crowd was not that hot for this one either, which to me was a bit of a surprise considering the caliber of star power.
Agreed. My sense was once Cody was done, a lot of the energy had been spent, unfortunately.
Now this was like what, 10:15-ish?
Yeah.
In the evening. Yeah. So I honestly don't have that much to say about the match itself. The finish came as Jey Uso is about to go for the splash. Drew gets out of the way, then hits the Claymore for the win, about as standard as I think you could imagine Big win for Drew, and Big Jim is just another guy. It seems for now.
Absolutely, yeah. This was just there to give Drew a really decisive win. So yeah, and Jimmy Uso is the one who suffers, I guess.
Do you think they've given up on the Big Jim push, if we could even call like some of his TV appearances that?
Yes, in a word. I don't see him reaching the level of his twin brother at all before WrestleMania. I don't know where Jimmy Uso gets slotted at this point. I really don't. He just seems like a mid. Well, tonight he was a mid-card enhancement guy, and I hope he's not that, going forward. But yeah, it's difficult to see where he fits.
Yeah, I regret saying giving up because I don't think that's what's happening. I think they will, I think we could maybe call it a pause, especially on the run up to WrestleMania when you have a specific focus set of matches, of which I don't think Jimmy Uso will be a part of. You can understand why he would be more in a supporting role rather than somebody who's being built. So I would expect he would maybe get another shot, or at least another focus towards later on, or maybe he'll just be rolled into somebody's storyline somehow. But
sure,
didn't seem to be that indication just yet. So after the match, Drew is about to attack Jimmy again, but this time Damian Priest attacks him from behind. And that seems to be our Mania direction, of course. So I'm looking forward to some of the promos between these two to see how they may be able to deepen perhaps the grudge against each other.
Yeah, I feel that's kind of badly needed. These two, I think, could build a nice feud between them. Drew certainly can do it on the mic. Priest as well, I think, has improved a lot. And has, when he really leans into his sort of charisma and that deep voice he's got, I feel like they can make something of this. And even tonight, you got a little bit of it when Priest was sort of saying, "You should have killed me, you scumbag." It's kind of okay. This is getting intense already. So
Drew, was many of our choices for best talker, right? So this is a chance for us to see when he's in a feud against somebody who's not a CM Punk, maybe not even a Seth Rollins or a Cody Rhodes, somebody who's a very high-level talker. Priest is okay, but I wouldn't say he's great. He's capable. But it's a chance for us to see what Drew can do with perhaps somebody who's not as great of a promo, but it's also a chance for us to see Damian Priest and whether or not he could step up to that higher level.
Yeah.
We get a video from Shinsuke Nakamura who says the U.S. title has passed LA Knight by. No better location for the death of your dreams than the birthplace of the United States. So we get the Street Profits up next. They're in a video. They cut a promo on DIY ahead of the title match next week. They tell the other teams to not get in their way. Then we cut to DIY, who say that they are the best tag team, and they ask for a moment of silence for the death of the Street Profits' dreams. So it's a 3-hour Raw. Everybody, a lot of segments.
Yeah, and Byron speaks and interrupts the silence, and it was kind of, I was running out of steam rapidly at this point anyway, but the comedy was bad. The verbiage of the best tag, the BTTIW or whatever, is DIY. No,
not what I want out of Ciampa and Gargano, and I recognize that they're heels, and maybe at this point playing more sort of not full comedy, but maybe less serious versions of maybe the Gargano and Ciampa that we've seen at their height.
Yeah.
But it's so far from what I want out of those two. It's so much less serious than what I want out of those two that, again, this entire division feels like it's lacking in just something that I could take seriously and actually be captivated by. Anyway, next week in Spain, we got DIY versus the Profits for the tag titles, B-Fab versus Charlotte, Carmella versus Orton, and Miz TV with Cody Rhodes. And that takes us to our main event for the U.S. title, Shinsuke Nakamura taking on LA Knight. Knight hits his box jump suplex. That's followed up by a diving elbow as Nakamura tries to miss Knight, but Charles Robinson ends up taking it. Nakamura then delivers Scorpio Rising. Shout out to Mako Satomura, which Wade Barrett calls, but there's no referee around. So Nakamura brings the chair in, and then Knight hits the BFT to Nakamura into it. As a ref comes down, and even this delay, which usually results in sort of a near fall, he sprints down, 1, 2, 3, and LA Knight wins the championship back in like an okay match, which is kind of how I feel about almost all of their matches. This match I thought was okay, and the crowd got into it once the shenanigans took place with the mist and all that stuff into the finish. Otherwise, I thought it was a very standard match, and I'm left asking, out of all of this, what was the point of the Shinsuke Nakamura title reign? He wins it. They barely do anything with him. I don't even recall that many appearances. They don't really evolve the feud nor his presentation at all. Yeah. He's a cool entrance, but that's kind of been it.
Yeah, we're on the same page with this way, and that's kind of what I'd noted as well. When they brought him back, they retooled the theme. Excellent. These video promos were great. The use of the subtitles I really enjoyed. The new presentation, all great. But then what did they do with it? It was just kind of this program on and off with a couple of weird diversions, like last week's one night tournament along the way. And as for the match, again, I agree with you. It was very sort of standard, patterned, typical kind of match. I was slightly concerned about LA Knight at one point. I didn't rewind it, but when he took the backdrop off the top rope, it looked like it might have landed on his neck, but he seemed absolutely fine. And if I watched it again, perhaps that wouldn't be the case. But yeah, I'm afraid we're on the same wavelength with this, both on this match and on Shinsuke's title run.
Yeah, I'm disappointed because I think people can only get so many character refreshes in their career, and Nakamura at least seemed to have a great spark upon return with a brand new look, a very exciting presentation and re-debut that Paul Levesque seemed to be very invested in, at least on that first day. We saw the behind the scenes videos of him mapping out and blocking entrances and everything, but beyond that, just no evolution. I would even say no attention given to his U.S. title reign. And the end result of this is being back to sort of a status quo champion in LA Knight, who also I think feels less hot than when he started all of this.
I agree.
Usually when somebody loses a championship, it's a reason for them to actually advance up the card. And it kind of feels like we're just, he feels like he's kind of treading water. I would say the matches continue to be satisfactory, but the bar is far higher now, and there are more exciting people to get interested in for this level of championship, like a Jacob Fatu, which
yes,
I wonder if that might be I would like to see that being the direction. Jacob Fatu feels like much more of an exciting U.S. champion level contender right now.
Completely agree that the title needs something. It's sort of slipped backwards into where it traditionally sat, which is kind of no one really cared about the US title, and that's a pity because LA Knight is very over with the crowd, and they like his back stage shtick as well, but I don't know. He doesn't do it for me. He's good on the mic. I give him that, but I feel like I say this every week. In ring, I find him very old school and kind of boring.
Yeah. Again, the raw material is there for all these guys, but I don't know if there's a story in the feuds to really support them, to really help elevate them. And that's been sort of one of my long-running criticisms of SmackDown in particular. Now this was a show that was kind of interesting to discuss because you had an excellent Bianca Belair Naomi segment that I thought was probably the best segment, most notable thing on this particular show.
Yeah.
Cody Rhodes came out and delivered one of the most important promos of his life, and I thought he killed it, knocked it out of the park.
Agreed.
The rest of the show felt like a very far sort of divide, in terms of importance, in terms of quality, even.
Completely agree. And they were both talking segments that we were highlighting. I think like yourself, place Naomi slightly above because we have high expectations of Cody, rightfully so. He's proven that he can deliver on the mic. I think that what Naomi did on tonight's episode was sort of above and beyond expectations, and that's what elevated it to me. And I think there was an awful lot of chatter online during the show about how she absolutely killed it. And so did Bianca. But the show in general on a Friday night, I enjoy reviewing it because we get to chat and all the rest of it. But it doesn't have the urgency and the characters and the pacing that Raw does. And even shaving half an hour off this show like they do with Raw would make a hell of a difference to it, particularly with the lighter roster. It's another point I bring up almost on a weekly basis, that the SmackDown roster right from the last draft was built for a 2-hour show, and Raw got more pay. There are more personnel on Raw for a shorter show at the moment, and that just doesn't feel quite right.
Yeah. And it's hard for me to say that definitively because there are very talented people on the SmackDown roster. But just week in and week out. Again, maybe Cody segment aside, this week the Naomi Belair segment aside, the show just does not feel as important or as good as it does on Mondays. But again, they got Randy Orton now. They've got like big name guys. Kevin Owens. I'm sure that's the same feud, but. So we'll see if Barcelona is any different, as Neal Flanagan will actually be making a return. It is my birthday next week, so John Pollock has given me the night off. So it'll be John and Neal covering the Barcelona show next week on SmackDown. I suppose time to be determined.
Time to be the normal time, I guess.
Oh, to be the normal time, because I don't know if it's been officially confirmed that when these shows might be airing internationally.
Oh, of course, that's a really good point. Yes, and I've certainly seen something online that to the effect that the European shows may be
for Netflix
airing live for international for Netflix. So maybe perhaps John and I could. We'll talk. We'll talk.
You'll find out.
John's still technically on his break, so I won't bother him about that.
Yeah. Again, everybody, John Pollock returns on Sunday for our review of AEW Revolution here at youtube.com/postwrestling immediately after the fact.
On his birthday, by the way.
On his birthday, that's right. Yeah. So celebrate John Pollock's birthday on Sunday with us with our AEW Revolution review. This is where we say goodbye to our free audience as we head over to the Post Wrestling Cafe and we take your phone calls on Friday about everything in the week of pro wrestling. So we'll talk to you guys then. See you later.